Well, good morning, bore da, or pnawn da, good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this, because I am recording this because I am off to sunny Kenya shortly. So I'm not sure when you're going to be viewing this, but we've done a recording. So even if you can't make the joint launch, you can watch it at your leisure. So this recording, fellow guides, is a presentation by me of the toolkit I have prepared to save, hopefully, a lot of you having to go through all the hoops and down all the blind alleys that I went to. So without any further ado, I hope it works. I'll share a presentation with you. Hopefully you've all got that on screen. Now, the big green square is actually just a picture of the multi-page PDF document that I've prepared, which you'll be able to refer to as a sort of guideline to see you through the maze of going online. Of that a bit more later. Right. The reason that I'm standing in front of you or virtually at all goes right back to thanks to Phil and Christine, who got us a grant to help guides move towards selling to the public and to selling via the new digital platforms that are available. But I'm sure Christine, who's presenting this, will tell you a little bit more about that. Now, before COVID, most guides, in fact, 90% of them, as per that, were selling direct to the trade. So this is where we have to start defining terms, because a toolkit is literally, if you've got a toolkit with spanners and everything in it, the first thing you have to do is someone has to tell you what each of the tools are and what they're for. And that's basically what I'm doing through the PDF in this presentation. And we have to use terms, just as it's ever so hard to start first aid. If you say arm, you have to say whether it's the upper arm, the lower arm, the ulna, the radius. So I'm going to be covering some technical terms in this presentation. And the first one is, you'll often hear when you start going to investigate further, the term trade or business to business, B2B. We are all businesses, be they micro businesses or private individuals, and selling, when we say to a business, and that 90% used to go to the trade, that means if most of your work comes from ground handling agencies, travel agents, that sort of thing, booking groups in with you, that is the trade. The other form of possible work for guides is direct to the public. So that's like Marion used to do in Tenby, running a regular tour where people turn up and pay to be on it as individuals, couples or families. So that's the first definition, what we mean by business to business or business to consumer or the public. Now, Phil Coates did a good survey about the existing state of things, and out of all our membership, only 2 got more than half of their income selling directly to the public. Now, we all know since COVID that the consumer or direct bookings have become more and more important. And if you want a slice of that action, you're going to have to get involved and find out how you can sell direct to the public, which is what this is all about. This toolkit has really been prepared through my personal experience. I've had to go down a lot of blind alleys. I've come to certain conclusions as to what's best and what's not. You may well come to different conclusions. You may disagree with me on some of the things. You may have further questions, but we thought it made sense for a guide that had been through all the hoops to give you some sort of way through the maze, or some guidance of which alleyways to go down and decide for yourself. So that's what this is all about. So, first of all, before we did anything with the grant, we wanted to know what was going on at present. So the current situation being, now why is this not moving on? Is that a lot of guides do not have a website. Do not let that put you off selling directly to the public. But most guides have got ideas for a tour in their town. There's a local stately home, castle, or town tour that they want to do. I will tell you more about whether you need a website or not later on. But this is what the survey came out with. If guides are running tours direct to the public, they're usually running it manually. In other words, they've got an A board outside the Tourist Information Centre, or a poster with a phone number to phone if you want to book on a tour, and then they're taking bookings that way. And they're either taking cash bookings at the time, or maybe getting people. They might have a machine for taking payments, or give people a bank account to pay online. But that mainly guides are operating tours manually. However, we all know there has been a huge explosion of direct and online booking. I bet almost every one of you has booked a house through Airbnb, or a room through booking.com, or a flight or through Expedia. So we all go online first generally these days, and therefore that's what we have to address our skills in this, because we all want to take advantage of such a thing. So in our toolkit, we've actually come up with 6 stages you have to go through or think about in order to be online. And once you get online, the grant means that there is some incentive for your time spent doing this these days. I wanted to point out that these days websites are getting less and less important. I mean, individual websites. So if you've got one, great, but don't think that your first step is to find someone and pay them £500 to build you a website, because if you do and you don't know how to alter it, you're probably worse off than not having one. And also, if you're the sort of person that does not like social media, that doesn't want to sell via Facebook or make TikTok videos, don't worry. Both the website and social media are powerful promotion tools and even operational tools, but it's not necessary, because there are other websites out there who will do the job for you. If you are fairly techie, my website I built on Weebly. There are lots of things like Wix and Weebly for free website building. The only thing you pay for is the address and hosting it, but they're quite low tech these days. If you know how to upload pictures or copy, you can actually drag and drop and make your own website. Have a look at mine. It's all been done by myself online. What you do need to understand is TLAs. When we did our guide training, we were often told to never use 3-letter abbreviations without explaining them. I mean, saying RAF is a no-no to overseas visitors. You say RAF or Royal Air Force, and then if you think you need to, you explain what it is. You do need to understand, you'll find if you go down into this route, all of the sections will and websites will name drop all sorts of things. So as a vital part of this introduction to the toolkit, I will talk you through what some of them mean. Now, the other thing I want to point out is you've got to get your mind into selling to the consumer instead of the tour operator. To a tour operator, we're very professional, we use technical terms, etc. The main difference you need to get your head around is that customers, ordinary people on the street, do not book guides. I'm not saying they don't care that you're experienced, qualified, and fun, but the number one thing, they aren't booking a guide, they're booking a tour of Carnarvon. So upfront that in everything you do on your tour. It's the tour they're interested in. You are more of a secondary consideration or a way of telling it. So right into the 6 steps first. The first thing you've got to be incredibly clear about is defining your product. And often I'm going to be using product, but what I mean is that the tour is the product. So it could be a tour of Carnarvon Castle, or it could be a walking tour of Aberystwyth Town. That is your product. Be really clear in it. About the elements of the tour, obviously the time it takes, how long. Most walking tours are about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half. Find a catchy title if you can. You know, these days, even for footpaths, they call it the Owen Glendower Way. They don't say route between Machynlleth and wherever. So a good title. We all know about TVPs, vital part of our guides training, top visual priorities. Make sure that you know what they are on your tour. I mean, in Conway, it's obviously the castle, the smallest house, the foodie nature. Sort of sit down and write down to make sure you're really clear with those, and you will be mentioning them. And if it's a theme tour like ghosts or in the footsteps of the Chartists or whatever, make sure that's in there. By USP, that stands for unique selling proposition, and whether you're selling baked beans or deodorant or tours, know if you've got something special that the competition haven't got, like you know, an excursion down a back street, or a visit to somewhere like a cellar or a peep inside, things they wouldn't. Make sure you know what that is and have that up front. Be very clear about your price. You know, is it a price per person? Is it a price for a tour? Does it vary at time of year? Whatever, but make sure you know about that. And also the calendar. When are you going to be operating it? Is it Monday, Wednesday and Friday between April and October at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock? Whatever it is, you need the answers to all of those before you even start uploading to the online websites, because be very clear in your product and keep it simple, because that's easier to sell. So that's step 1. Step 2 is how you're going to reach the customers. Obviously, this website, this presentation is more about online stuff. So yes, by all means, and I do have leaflets, postcards, boards outside the start, posters, but we're talking about the online stuff, which you'll need. So will you be using your website to promote it? And it is worth having a website, because as we come on later, the online travel agents have a lot of commission. So if you have your own website with the same sort of name of the tour, some customers might find you on that, having spotted you on a big site earlier, and you'll get some bookings without commission that way. So it might be a website. It might be social media. That's increasingly getting important. Even in the last 6 months, I've noticed I'm getting a lot more direct messages on Instagram or Facebook, and people wanting to sort of even book that way. And certainly it's a way of keeping your customers interested, so they might come back later, and that. So social media, if you're interested in that, have a think about that. Very, very important, and increasingly important, I found, is review platforms. So even if to date you have not signed up for TripAdvisor, or increasingly important, Google reviews, do so. Start collecting reviews now, because more and more, the more reviews you get, the more bookings you'll get. Well, the more reviews at a higher star you'll get, because more and more customers do look at reviews before they book. So review platforms are definitely one way of marketing, and quite a few of them, like TripAdvisor, you can click through to book, and more of that later. Online travel agents. I'm going to be covering these in more depth later, but at this stage, these are big, powerful web platforms such as Expedia, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Viator, Airbnb. So are you going to be selling through them? The other form of selling between you and the customer is destination management organizations, things like Visit Wales, Visit Britain. I'll be covering those in more depths, but do decide which ones of these areas, or all of them, you want to go through. And why is it not moving on? Oh, sorry, it is moving on. I just didn't click through the ones we've talked about. The third stage is actually booking. Right, they found out about you, they know about your tour, what it is, how, and now they want to book. How can the customer book? You can carry on doing manual bookings, where you give your phone number, or the tourist information centre will often take payments and bookings. But again, this is not what this toolkit's about. This toolkit is about digitally managing bookings and looking at the elements that enable customers to book. And they're basically searching. How can they find out when your tour's running and how much it costs? And so search terms. Are they going to be searching on things to do in Carnarvon? Or are they going to be searching on, is there a 10 o'clock tour on the 6th of September? Whatever. So the two vital elements of that are your calendar. So they can click on a certain date and time and know if there are spaces, critically important, because you probably have a maximum, nice problem to have, a maximum bookings for each tour. And then once they found there's availability, can they just click on a book now, and can they pay? So a bit more of that later. After they have booked, you are then to operate the tour. Now, you will find a term in a lot of the online travel agents and things later. People will start to talk to you about managing your inventory, which sounds very complicated and technical. But don't forget, these big websites are dealing with everything from spaces on a balloon ride, to a hotel room booking, to a dinner reservation, or whatever. To a retailer, inventory is their stock. So when they manage their inventory, they're taking off the shelf tag if there's something's now discontinued, or they're altering the price at the till if a product's changed. So your inventory is your tours, and when they happen and how much they cost. Okay, so managing that is what inventory it is. So it's sorting those sort of thing. You've got to sort out how you're going to manage operations, how you're going to make sure that the customer always has an up-to-date record of when and where and how much the tour is. You may have several products. By products, again, I mean tours. So for instance, I've got maybe a food tour of Conway, a castle tour, a walking the town walls of Conway, a hiking tour. Those are your products. Your calendar is essential. Have a look at what your main calendar will be. Is it a Google Calendar? Is it an iCal? Is it one built within the only site you're using, like Viator, for instance? and how often, I'll make sure, how will you update all of the above. If you decide to discontinue a product, you know, how are you going to make sure it's off your wherever you're selling it? If you change your price, if you change the dates, because you get a huge booking for a 2-week tour and you want to cancel all your walking tours. So this is operations. Okay. Fifth and absolutely vital stage, which is why we're all here, is how you're going to get paid. Are you going to get paid direct into your grubby little paw? Is it going to be cash when they all turn up at the beginning? Is it going to be a bank transfer? Is it going to be via one of these little credit card machines? Or are you going to get paid by direct? I mean, it comes direct to you without anybody else really being in the way. The other way of getting paid is for the online travel agent to collect the money for you. And all of that, and pay you after you deliver the tour. More of that later when I talk about who the contract between the customer and you, or between who does the customer make a contract with. We're going to get onto that later, so don't worry. The last of our 6 stages, which is quite important if you want an ongoing business, is keeping track of everything. Obviously, I often want to very quickly find out how much money I made in the last month and how many customers came. So your sales are important. How many of them were American? Anything you think you want to know. How many came on morning tours compared to evening? How many came at the weekend? So how many paid in dollars, whatever it is. So you want reports on sales. You also need accounts. As I said, if people are paid in dollars, the income tax form, you can't put it in there. You need to know how much pounds you actually got in your bank account. You want things that you can quite easily download as database, as Excel spreadsheets or whatever, and put into your income tax returns. You also need some sort of database. Certainly, the time the tour starts, you're going to maybe want the customer's mobile phone number in case they don't turn up. And then later on, for marketing reasons, you might want their emails and who your bookings came from if you are using several online treatments. So have a look at various platforms and what reports they give you. Now I'm getting on to definitions, and this is the stage I used to glaze over and ignore and start doing my nails. But listen to this bit because it'll save you a lot of time when you do start going and looking at the individual programs and platforms. The first one you're going to keep coming across is channel managers, or APIs. API stands for Application Programming Interface. And obviously it was that sort of TLA was invented by a techie person. It just means all the programming, all the matrices and algorithms between you and the consumer. It's how to make sure that your calendar goes to the consumer, etc. It's the bit in between that you used to have to do manually by looking up in your diary or whatever. So it's programs that do that for you. So there are several companies, which I'll get onto later, who you can pay a monthly fee to handle that for you. And then we're into further definitions, which I mentioned these names earlier, but I'll just go into a bit more detail of who and what they are, because an important decision you have to make is which sort of organizations you are going to use. And the first one is DMOs. We've been using that term for decades, actually, and you already know a lot of them. Direct marketing organizations, or actually that should read destination. I did change it, so I'm not quite sure why it hasn't come up. Destination marketing management organizations, which are Visit Wales, Visit Britain, etc. Apologies for confusing you with that slide. It's destination marketing. So they're marketing a destination such as North Wales or Llandudno or whole of Wales or Britain. So that's what we mean by DMOs. OTAs are the online travel agents. So they are the Airbnbs, the Viators, the Expedias, the Booking.com, etc. They're the huge online websites. Both of those, DMOs and OTAs, exist as a way of getting the consumer to you and vice versa. And in the PDF, there are click-throughs to some of the more obvious ones there. Again, keep not glazing over, because there are other terms you'll come across when you're researching this, but they're important to know about. When they talk about analytics, we offer you a full range of analytics. They just mean those reports I was talking about, sales, and you can search for them in different ways, like how many people from Korea you had in November or whatever, or the accounts, how much money did you get from TripAdvisor, etc. So those are reports. They will also talk about bookability, and bookability is literally that book now button. They say we offer bookability, which means once that you've put your product of your town tour of Welshpool up there and the price, and people can click through and find out when it's running and actually book on the tour, and they may be able to pay on the tour too. So that's what they mean by bookability. Inventory, I've covered before. It actually means your tours. It's your product. What are you selling? This last term is worth a little bit more going into because it is quite important and legal. It's who is the merchant of record is the legal term. And basically that is, who do you follow and sue if things go wrong or whatever. If people make their bookings direct with you and you come up with your cancellation charges and terms and other terms and conditions, you take payment in your bank account, you are the merchant of record. But if you're using an intermediary, such as Airbnb Experiences, and the customer books you through them, pays them, they pay you, they click that I accept terms and conditions on Airbnb, they are the merchant of record. So it's very, very important to get that clear and for you to decide whether you want to use intermediaries, or you might, like me, use both, some direct bookings, some with other people. So that's quite important. Now, I've talked about as we actually start getting started and you're deciding who are you going to use, are you going to use online travel agents? Remember, OTAs are online travel agents. The big advantage of using them is you will have loads more customers. They are huge. You know, if you Google town tours of Newport, things like Viator will come up quite high. They come up very, very high in searches. They spend a lot of money and have terms of people analysing terms and making sure they're really high up in searches. And customers trust them. They'd much rather book with Viator, a big American company, and pay them rather than Joe Blogs, because they trust if something goes wrong, they can get their money back, and they also trust that their data will be safer with them than with Joe Blogs tourist guide. So the big reason is you're likely to get 10 times the money than if you don't, 10 times the customers than if you don't use them. And or the other advantage when you get started is you don't have to buy other programs because they're bookable, remember, and payable. You haven't got to pay for something to take the payments, something to book, something to send they will automatically send emails to the customer saying they're booked or reminding them, asking for feedback afterwards. They'll send emails to you, put things. So those are the big advantages of using an online travel agent. The disadvantage, and we always hate this as tour guides, is the commission. Be prepared when you're thinking about your prices and you are going with online travel agents. They will take at least 25% commission. Some of them can take 28-30% commission. And I don't mind that for a £15 town tour of Conway. But if I'm selling £1,000 minibus tour, as far as I'm concerned, they do the same amount of work for that. And 250 quid's a lot to pay them for that. But you will get more bookings from them. So it's a thing you've got to weigh up one way or the other. The other thing is you don't get paid instantly. If I have someone book for a September tour in January, I get paid for that straight away if they book direct. If they book that through an online travel agent, I won't get paid, though the customer pays straight away. And don't forget, they then sit on that money earning interest. I won't get paid that till after I've done the tour, at the very least. Some are quite good. Airbnb Experiences pay the day after, but Viator only pay once a month. So I could have to wait 6-8 weeks for my £2,000 minibus tour. So that's, and because they are usually the merchant of record, remember I talked about this, the customer's contract is with them, you have to sign up to their terms and conditions, and the customer has to. And sometimes they're horrible. They give you, like for instance, Viator give you the choice of either, for cancellation, either having all the money if the customer cancels, which sounds great, but if the customer's booked 6 months in advance, they probably be very unwilling to book 6 months in advance if they know if they cancel in a week's time, they lose all their money. But so the choice is between that or cancellation right up to 48 hours before the tour or whatever. And you can't set it for somewhere in between or a sliding scale. So have a good look at all the online travel agents' terms and conditions and decide if you can live with them or not. Destination marketing organizations are very much the halfway house there. So do have a look. As I mentioned, those are Visit Britain, Visit Wales, or even down to towns. They are primarily set up, well, to help the town really, or whatever, get more bookings and help the consumer. They will be higher up in this. So if you're things to do in Llandudno and you search that, then probably Visit Llandudno might come up. And they're usually free or low commission. So because they don't exist primarily to make a fortune. They exist to help the economy of their marketing area. So some of them are bookable. Visit Wales now, you can click through, but they will click through to your website. So you do need probably, for most of these, a website of yourself where you can then take over. Yeah, so those are the advantages of that. The disadvantages are obviously they're not so high up in searches as the likes of Airbnb or Viator. And the big disadvantage for some of you may be once they've introduced the customer to you, it's your customer. So you are the merchant of record. So anything that goes wrong, you will have to deal with it and not leave the big ordinary travel agents to deal with it. You will have to liaise with the customer, which means, of course, they've got their good faith and brand to think of. So they may make sure before you can sign up with a lot of them that you are a bona fide, recognizable, reliable supplier, because they don't want everyone who's booked. But I mean, it's very good if people are searching for things to do on their holiday in, I can't think of anywhere, Pwllheli, you know, they might on the same site sign up to a stand-up paddleboarding course, a town tour of Criccieth, and a self-catering cottage. So it's nice for the consumer. So that's aware of the advantages and disadvantages of them. If you are getting started and you do decide to use one of these destination marketing organizations, then I would go with Visit Britain Shop. More of that later, because they also offer a free channel manager. And when I'm talking about channel managers, they're those APIs I was talking about. They're the techie things that let you, will stream into your calendar and back to the consumer from your calendar, and make all the reports and things. I use Boken. It's not 100%. All of these ones, these are the 4 ways that I think you should check out, because they're more suitable for tour guides, because an awful lot of the channel managers out there are for hotels and B&Bs for booking their rooms. Boken is more designed for the activity, and Trexoff actually for the activity operators market, which we're a bit similar to really, as far as we're booking places not on a rib ride but on a tour, so a lot of the stuff is similar. Fair Harbour, again, I did change that. I'm not quite sure. It's FARE on the website. Now that's another one like the other 2 above. The other way of looking at things could be, especially if you're only doing a few tours sometimes, is to look at ticket selling. So things like Eventbrite, you know, if you put individual events on there and sell a ticket, they'll take the payments and that sort of thing. Of course, they will take a commission, whereas Boken, Trexoff and Fair Harbour, you pay for monthly. So have a look at their costs, their terms and conditions, and I've mentioned a few others in the PDFs that will. But Tourism Exchange Great Britain is the channel manager for Visit Britain Shop. So it's a very good one, and low commission. I think it's 10% for you to get started with before you decide on some of the others. The other thing you need to do is collect the money. And I wouldn't even go there unless you're happy to bank online. If you've never banked online, then obviously these sort of things aren't for you. But once you decide to, you need a way of collecting money from the customer. And the big ones I put there in the PDF are PayPal and Stripe and WorldPay, all huge multinational American companies that will take the payment from the customer in their local currency. Often, so they can pay in their Kenyan shillings or whatever, but you get paid in pounds. And above all, they will keep the credit card numbers secure. You never get to see the customer's bank account credit card numbers, and obviously they've got huge security software, so the payments are secure, but you will pay a commission again, usually about 4%. So build that into your pricing as well. Can you see we're building up to nearly 30% if you had the channel managers and the payment things, and the online travel agents. But you will probably get credit checked. They aren't going to let Mr. Smith pay you with and then lose the money because you disappear, and their reputation. So you will get credit checked and have to jump through a few hoops to sign up with them. But yes. So I'm just going to sum up now everything we've gone through, and which is you must define your product, your tour, your calendar, your price. And then have a look, spend a lot of time looking at these various names of platforms I've given you, clicking through. All of them have fast customer service teams who can help you. They've got lots of online videos talking you through how they work, lots of help documents, that sort of thing. Because, so have a look at all of those, decide what you're going to do and join and put your products on there. And the good news, the carrot, if you like, is Christine and the grant have managed to secure for every single product, or for guides that get product up on and bookable online, in other words, that customers can come on, we can give you £200 for all your work. So don't worry if it's taken you a couple of days to set up. Once you're set up, you will get paid for it. I will run a question and answer online session, but that's not straight away. I deliberately, because these platforms have huge online help that's much better and much more technically proficient than me, try and go through everything there first, and only come if you've got questions from a guide's perspective on the mechanics of operating it. So we'll do an online session. So thank you all ever so much for listening to me. And let's hope I've got lots of online competition next year for tours. So I'm just going to stop sharing. So you get to see me all again and say thank you for listening. And goodbye, really. Why is it not? I come out of the, oh, there we are.